So good evening and welcome to another special notebook. Obviously we had a pre-season notebook for the Monday Night Tours, and now we're having a Group A mid-season catch-up. And obviously doing that alone is not very fun, but joining me tonight is Jack, who hosts the Group A League. So good evening, Jack.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to be here.
Yeah, and obviously mid-season 6 races in, and I don't know if you remember back into the pre-season notebook, it was basically what we were expecting, obviously. And I think it's fair to say
Yeah,
this season has been a little bit different to what we expected.
yeah, it's been pretty exciting to watch from a viewer perspective, and as well as the fact that there's been a lot more competitive racing, I think, this season than there has been. Been a nice change of pace. We've had a lot of podiums already in the first 6 races for different drivers, and it's nice to see. It's really good to see, and it should continue into the second half.
Definitely, I mean, from, like I say, from a spectator point of view, because obviously I end up streaming it for you guys, it's
Mm.
been almost a pleasure to watch. I mean, even to look back at when I do my notes, I just look back at it and to go, that was a phenomenal race. I mean, we'll pick apart each race as we go along tonight,
Mm.
but there's certain races. I mean, for example, Silverstone, um,
Yep.
Brands Indy, they were just fantastic battles to watch all the time.
Yes, and that's the thing. It's up and down the grid. There's battles. It's not just at the front. It's through the mid pack. It's at the tail end as well. And with people finding a new leg effectively this season and getting quicker and quicker, it's getting harder and harder to win races, and it's getting harder and harder to assume that you're going to be on the podium week in, week out. And that's great. It's once again, it's surpassed the previous season in my opinion already after 6 rounds. And I'm not just being biased when I say that. So it should, with the tracks we've got coming up, it should definitely. Well, let's going to get a bit more spicy, put it that way.
So let's dive into the individual races this season. Round one, Brands Hatch Indy, and qualifying very controversial in that one, if you remember, because Scooby G ended up setting a time that would have had him on pole, but he then disconnected
Mm.
in the session, didn't he?
Yeah, that was really tough luck on Scooby. To be fair to him, we know it's his home track. We know how quick he goes around there. If you look at the past results, he's always been there or thereabouts at Brands, and he should have he should have been on pole. But in hindsight, you're glad he disconnected in qualifying and got back in rather than the race. So swings and roundabouts, but it's a it's a shame because he should have had a pole.
I mean, just to put it in perspective, I mean, Edu's pole position time was a 48.079. Scooby's Scooby's lap before he disconnected was a 47.863. He was nearly
Yeah.
he was 2 tenths quicker than the field. I mean, and it kind of seemed when he joined back in, it was just one of those laps that you're never going to do again in the session.
Yeah, Jeff seems to be a little bit of Lewis Hamilton at the moment, seeming to pull out a lap out of nowhere. So, but maybe it's just a one-shot lap at the moment that he can do. But if you look at the rest of his qualifying times, he's always at the front. So you can guarantee if he doesn't pull it off the first or the second time, he'll do it a third or fourth time, something.
Um, Going through, obviously, I also am using my notes as a bit of a backup here. Fraser in the Nissan, I mean, you expected him to be a little bit more on the ball during Brands, but he had multiple spins in qualifying that just carried on into the race. It's almost like he's driving a rear-wheel drive Nissan and a four-wheel drive at times.
Yeah, it was a strange race for Fraser. He was running third, I think, at one point. He was on the podium, that's for certain, and then he spun at Paddock Hill, and it just didn't click from that point on. But I was looking through the stats. He got fastest lap during the race, so the pace was there, but the consistency just wasn't, which is it's a shame for Fraser because he could be a championship contender if he's not had the spins, but that's how it first started at Brands Hatch.
Obviously, with Brands, obviously quite a short circuit, which meant that a lot of um, a lot of people quite close together, which also meant penalties was a massive factor in the race. I mean, I noted down 6 people getting penalties. I mean, you ended up with a podium at Brands with
Mm.
Scooby having a 4-second penalty in the end. So obviously helpful for you, but
Yeah, Brands Hatch is it's always the way with the first round of the season. Like there's always mistakes, there's always people pushing the limit and perhaps going over the limit, and a bit of rustiness, I imagine, for most cases for a lot of people because they want to try and get as close to the front as possible. But when you're in a battle, you don't particularly want to slow down, especially at some circuits on this game where the track limit system is very harsh and arguably skewed wrong. And I knew beforehand if I just keep it on the road, a penalty or two is going to push me right near the front. I didn't have the pace for a podium, but because of it, because of keeping my nose clean, I managed to pull it out the bag.
definitely, I mean, obviously as the race got on, you could definitely tell the rust of everyone at Brands Hatch. I mean, multiple
Mm.
people obviously spinning, having an issue. I think you end up getting tapped or something in a race. I can't remember if it was Group A's or another one on the night. But actually, you got tapped. So the rust was almost evident from everybody, but in general, not too bad considering they had a whole season, like the little break in between seasons, really.
Yeah, Brands. I think it helps with the way the track is as well. It's quite narrow. It's everyone sort of knows that if you make a mistake, you're gonna sort of spin away from the track. In that regard, if you go wide at Paddock Hill, you're gonna more than likely spin either into the gravel or straight across to the other side. So there were a few spins and a few little bumps here and there, but I don't think there was anything major in the Group A's from what I can remember. I remember Eddie spinning out of, I think, the lead or second place at one point because he did put it on pole, I think.
Yeah, you did put it on poll. I'm just having a look, see if I got it noted down anywhere. I know him and Omega were having a fantastic battle through the race, to be fair. And Edu ran wide at clearways on lap 10, so that was a bit unlucky for him.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Edu and Omega having a very, very good battle. I mean, I remember one of the moves from Edu into Paddock Hill. And I kid you not, Edu just gone flying into Paddock Hill, got up the inside, and made the move stick. It was phenomenal to watch. Quite possibly the move of the race in that one.
Definitely, Eddie's always done great overtaking manoeuvres like that. He knows how to balance the brakes, especially on quite high cambered tracks like that. When you notice the overtakes come in at, at Paddock Hill, and he's done some in the past at Bannock Bray and a few other places with those type of cambered moves. He seems to just have a balance that I don't really see many people in the Group A's have.
So obviously overall, with Brands Hatch, let me get the surveys up because obviously at the end of each race, obviously you guys, I give you all like a questionnaire survey type thing to see how
Mm.
your race goes for note, possible purposefully notebook reasons. But obviously one of the questions is how was the overall racing, which I think is quite useful for people like you and Lee who does the
Mm.
moderns and the Clios, because for you guys you can then see where things can be tweaked and how to make it better in the future.
Definitely.
So only 3 people ended up answering the survey, but if I analyse it, the numbers for Brands actually 3 people. One person rated it a 6, one a 7, and one a 9. So it
Mm.
wasn't. You could definitely tell, see more high middle answers, but still quite good considering everyone's everyone's preseason rust. In reality,
Yeah, I think a lot of I think some of the I think Ginge might have been one of the ones who rated it because he had a difficult first race, and I think it's always difficult for the first race. I mean, the guys at the front. I'm sure there was at one point there was 5 cars battling for the lead, but obviously the first round not everyone did the surveys. I'm sure now that we're tagging them in the surveys, they'll end up doing them more, and more people will respond back to them. Fingers crossed. So that'll give feedback to me, and obviously for the other 2 leagues on the Monday Night Tours, for the TC and the Clio League, it'd be great if we could get more replies, because that'd help me in league, like you said, massively, because we can tweak and adjust, and if there's something that we could improve on, then with it being in the survey, it'd help us out massively.
so coming away then from Brands Hatch, Omega a good start to his defence of his title. We then go to Belgium and Spa-Francorchamps, and yet again, the championship was flipped on its head.
Hmm. Yeah, I think owing to the fact that there was heavy rain over in Belgium at the time, the wet weather specialists and those that perhaps don't practice as much got separated massively out. There was a huge gap between the top 4 or top 5 who were battling, and there was myself in the middle, and then there was those further back. And you could see the ones who were naturally talented in the wet weather were just right at the front battling. And then you had a couple, myself included, who struggled with the car, the setup, and the way things were. Couldn't decide which setup to run, whether the stable was the quickest or the loose was. Turns out the loose was in the end, and some people, myself included, picked the stable, which limited us a little bit. But those 5 at the front, I think it was, I want to say, Scooby, Jamie, Cambiz, Fraser, and I think RS Jim was up at the front with them as well until he spun off. Those guys at the front were phenomenally fast, and with Scooby getting the win, just spun everything, like you said, on its head again.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, looking at it, Scooby took his first pole position of the season from there,
Mm.
which is obviously, as we know, an extra point, which is
Yep.
always helpful in a championship. And as you said, Jamie, Cam, Jim, even Fraser. Now, obviously, this one was a BMW special, which meant that
Yep.
even though, for example, Omega is a very, very quick driver, he just never felt. Watching it, even in qualifying, I just felt like he never felt comfortable in that car.
I don't know if it's. I don't know if that was a blip for Omega, because last season when he won his championship, we had 2 races in the BMWs, and he's finished 4th and 6th in those races. He stuck it on pole at Rouen. So I don't know if I don't know if the update has sort of changed the dynamics of the BMW. It definitely feels like it has, but I don't know if it's affected Omega more or otherwise, because I think he got caught up in a few little incidents as well and had a few mistakes, because his lap times were sort of similar to mine. So he really probably, if he hadn't have had those accidents, he might have finished 6th or 7th. But it was a quiet race for him.
Yeah, really see quite. He had a good little battle coming back up through the field. Really
Mm.
good to watch from that point. But obviously going through the race, a massive crash at Radion. Um, and from watching various things, I think it all started with Edu potentially just losing the rear coming up over the crest, and then obviously over a blind crash, you don't know what's coming. So a bit unfortunate really for everyone. I mean, I think I noted down Tim, Whitford, One High Mofo, Shock Shaft, all unfortunately
It
getting a little
was
bit tangled in
Yeah,
that
that was
first lap.
it was a chain reaction of events. Edu, I think, clipped the curb, spun across and hit the wall, but whoever it was who was sort of 3 or 4 car lengths back sort of reacted to that. I was just in front of this, so I could see in my rear view mirror. And they spun, and then obviously one high mofo got launched, and Tim got caught up in it as well. So it was just a case of one accident sort of could contained by itself caused another big accident indirectly.
Obviously, going through the race after that, you had a fairly impressive start, actually, 8th to 6th. By lap 1, Jamie was down to 4th because Cam and Jim had passed him on lap 1, and then Omega and Edu started battling for 11th. And yeah, I mean, Edu and Omega were then just trying to make their way up through the field, but at the front, you had Jim, Cam, Fraser, and Jamie all together having this massive battle while Scooby was just off up the road.
Yeah. Yeah, Scooby definitely had a good race. It's fair to say that, and I think the key moment of that was when the 3, 4 behind him started battling. And obviously round Spa, once you start battling, you're going to lose time, especially up through Lake Calm and round Pouon and further down onto the back straight with Blanchimont, etc. And Scooby just pulled off up the road. He was pulling a second a lap at times, and it was a cakewalk in effect at the end.
Well, I mean, the battling was so big. I mean, by lap 6, I mean, this was only a 10-lap race, and on lap number 6, you had Cam, Jim, and Jamie 3 wide into Le Camp.
Yeah.
I mean, it was sensational to watch.
It was fantastic. When I watched the race afterwards, that was one of the best moments I've ever seen. 3 BMWs blasted spray out from the back of the cars, all guns blazing going into the Lake Arm. It was pretty awesome. Really good racing and really clean as well, which is the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a bit of a shame we're only doing the Group A's tonight, because there is another overtake in the moderns, and I think you'll know which one it is, Spa, that I'd love to talk about. But we'll save that one for another time, I think. But yeah, obviously, on lap 6, you then got passed by Fraser.
Yeah.
I mean, the man's stupidly quick at times, isn't he? I mean, but I find Fraser's really quick but very smart all at the same time. He just picks his moments very well, so he doesn't lose too much time when overtaking.
Yeah, I've noticed in the Group A's that if there's ever a mistake involved by Fraser, it's usually from himself trying to be the drift king 9 times or 10 times out of 10, to be honest. I can't recall a time of him ever punting someone off the track in the Group A's. I can't think of it at all. I can't think of anyone hitting him off. I might be wrong on that point. I'm sure Fraser would be able to correct me if he was here. But he does pick his overtakes very well, and it's to be expected from, the Renault Esports PS4 champion. It's all down to skill, and that's what Fraser has. He's just been really unfortunate this season.
Yeah, definitely, especially in that Nissan. It's not been the easiest car for him to drive this season. But obviously, Scooby won ended up winning the race by a comfortable margin, although he did almost spin it at the bus stop chicane on his way to victory. But obviously, then we had Jamie and Cam on the podium, as opposed to Jim and yourself. So, I mean, by race 2, 6 different podium drivers and 2 different winners. I mean, at this point, you're thinking anyone can win this championship from here.
Yeah, definitely the case, 100%.
It's quite nice. I mean, because normally by round 2, 3, if you've got a couple people all like constantly on the podium, you're like, okay, that's probably going to be where the battle is. But after round 2 of this, it was just like anything can happen with these cars. I mean, no one's safe almost.
it's carried on from the season before last. Season 10, season 11 were exactly the same. We had new podiums for drivers who've been taking part last season. Lee 007, who's not racing this season because he's got external issues going on. He got two podiums first time ever, and he'd been racing I think 3 or 4 seasons at that point in the Group A's, and again it was two different winners, in both races from the first two, and it carried on again this season. I think the openness of this championship is what keeps people coming back.
So moving on from Spa, we then go to Germany and Hockenheim National, one
Mm.
of your favourite circuits
Yeah,
for
very
the
much
Group
so.
A's. And Fraser finally puts a decent lap together, and he puts the thing on pole.
I think it's well deserved. I mean, Fraser, like myself, and I believe Edu as well. Actually, no, it might not have been about Edu, but took advantage of the reverse grid that we had. And I knew before the race started that Fraser was going to be the one to try and beat. He was quick last season at Hockenheim, and in last season we both took each other out. There you go. I've just remembered an incident with Fraser, but he's always he's always been quick at Hockenheim. It's one thing that I've always remembered. And last season we were both very quick and both could have won that race. We should have, arguably, had that accident not happened. So for him getting the pole by the margin that he didn't surprise me because I didn't have the pace. Fraser just found something in the GTR that I didn't have.
I tell you, also wanted to mention at this point, obviously people taking advantage of the top four in the championship not being able to qualify and being reversed. Cam, top five. I mean, in the Merc, which obviously the Hockenheim was an open class
Mm.
race. You chose race the original car, but top five. I mean, that's quite an achievement, really, in a rear-wheel drive car.
The Matt Cam 123 Diz is the Mercedes master. I've called them this for seasons on end, and he's the only driver I know who can get the maximum out of that car. If he's got a little bit of time to practice a lap, maybe 10 minutes, he'll put it on pole, probably ahead of anyone on this grid. If he's on form, he won't be beaten in that car. He's phenomenal in that Mercedes. I don't know how he got a top five because I don't think I would have.
No, it was definitely an incredible lap. Again, going into the race, you and Edu took off the line like scolded cats. I mean, straight into turn one, and Edu ended up passing you, going out behind Fraser, but it was tight between all three of you going into turn two, and you did put a slight gap on yourself and sliding gas at the time.
Yeah, it's strange. It was a strange start. Fraser seemed to bog down off the line, which sort of helped both. I mean, Edu has this ability to launch a car off the line. Me and Scooby and Ginger spoke about this in the past. In fact, a few of us have. That Edu, we're not sure how he works the clutch off the line, but he just rockets off every single time. He doesn't even have to have the best reaction time. He just balances it perfectly. I'm not sure what he's doing, but he's doing it right, and it's definitely fair play to him.
Obviously, by the end of lap one, Fraser lost the lead because he ran wide through Sud Curve. Um, and it's fair to say for Edu, he'd been having a season of bad luck up to this point, really. Um, he, well, I don't. He didn't finish very well. I mean, he came sixth at Brands, and he parked it at Spa in the end because he was having such a bad time.
Mm.
Um, Obviously, he just wasn't. I guess wasn't fun enough anymore in that rain. Um, but after 2-3 laps, it looked like he had suddenly made this bad luck vanish.
He Edu you could argue that Eddie should have had a championship by now because of the speed he has, and when he's on form, like he was at Hockenheim, he just drove away from us. He was faster than I think he was faster than everyone at Hockenheim. Yeah, he got fastest lap, and he was pretty much right on Fraser's pole time. I think he was only a tenth and a half off, and he kept that up during the race. And then, obviously, with the bad luck that he'd had during the first two rounds, he throttled back and took it easy, just so he could bring home that first deserved win of the season.
So going through round Hockenheim, definitely good battles, and also a few incidents, shall we say, through the
Mm.
Parabolica. And I think both of them, if I remember correctly, involved Ginge. If I'm correct in my thinkings here.
One of them definitely did. Car cut straight across Ginge, didn't they, at one point?
Yeah, I
And
think that
we
was with
we
Royston initially.
yeah, we reviewed that, and there was a bit of squeezing that pushed. I can't remember which car it was that shot straight across Ginger's nose, but the car they were squeezing up, and sort of they sort of magnetised and then separated, and the car obviously at that point they were at the braking zone, so it speared the car straight across Ginger and swiped him out. We looked at it, we had a number of different angles of it, and it was a racing incident that was just caused by magnetising to the cars. It hasn't been that bad in the game since it's come out, but just door handle to door handle when drivers are trying to turn away from one another, they both turned into each other at the same time, which caused it.
Yeah, and then obviously the other one was not involving Ginger. Actually, it was Shockshaft and Royston, but obviously
Yeah.
a lot less of a reaction than that one.
Mm.
Luckily going in, but it's weird how it was the same corner and pretty much almost identical incidents.
I think it's just the way that the corner is. It's because it's going on to the shorter part of the track, which is quite narrow. That hairpin that you've got to get around. When you go around a sud curve on the GP track, obviously it's very wide, and you've got that hairpin at the bottom. But with the national circuit, you cut that part out, so it's quite a narrow piece of tarmac. And I think people forget how much it narrows as you're going in. It's sort of like Silverstone National with the maggot with going into Beckett's. It
Mm.
really narrows as you start to break and turn in. So it caught, like you said, it caught two incidents out.
Carrying on, obviously you ended up spinning at the penultimate corner, which made you lose your second place at the time.
But yeah, that was annoying.
Made for an
I
interesting
was
race after
hoping.
though, because you and Slidergas did have one hell of a battle after. I mean, I've got my notes here, and
Yeah.
one of them was lap 8. You managed to catch back up to Slidergas, and you into turn 1, got past him, no trouble at all. And I would admit, I was sat there thinking, okay, now he might be able to pull half a second gap and control it. But literally 2 laps later, Slidergas does the exact same thing back to you.
I started to struggle around, I'd say lap nine, probably not long after that overtake with the tyres, and the car was sliding just that little bit more than I wanted it to. I don't mind the GTR sliding a little bit, but it was starting to, because of the tyre wear, it was sliding a little bit too much. I really pushed to get back up to slide gas to get past him. It was my own fault. I pushed too hard and the tyres were starting to wear. And then I made a little mistake coming out of the final corner, and it just set Slider Gas up. And we've been having some great battles, not just in the Group A's, but we've had some good battles in the Clios and in the TC League as well this season, and that was just part of it. And it was clean, and to be fair to Slider Gas, he's been great this season. I was going to mention him in the pre-season notebook that we did to say to expect him to get a few more podiums, and he's already proven he can.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you lost the place to Slidergas, and then Jim got involved. I mean, and I'm gonna say this, it was a phenomenal drive from Jim. Starting
Yeah.
near the back of that, pretty much right in the back of the grid, and fighting for you for a podium. But again, obviously, he ended up passing you into the national part of the track, and then the very next lap, bang, you've done the same to him. I mean, it's just fantastic to watch the fact that one lap you see one move and think, oh yeah, that's actually really good. He's managed to make that place up, and then all of a sudden, the complete reverse happens.
Yeah, I think it. I've noticed, particularly in the Group A's, and I think a lot of the drivers who take part will say this, that it is a very much a mental game. You've got to constantly think about, got to keep setting quick laps, got to keep setting quick laps. If you overtake someone, it's very easy to slow down. It's not just the Group A's, obviously, it's right across the board of racing, but it seems to affect people in the Group A's a little bit more. We've seen it at each round when someone's might have put it on pole by a fair margin, but then if someone's stuck behind them, they can't go quicker, and you're just sort of attached onto the back of a driver. I remember Jim got past me after I made another mistake coming out of the left-hander that goes onto the back straight, and I thought, well, I've got to get him back. I'll do exactly the same thing to him.
And that you did, to be fair, was yeah brilliant. Again, Fraser, another bad round. I mean, I remember watching his almost demise on the stream, and he was literally coming out of the right hand before you get to the stadium section, and the back end just swapped ends on him like that. I mean,
Yeah, he went sideways and then across the track, didn't he? Backwards. He
he,
sort of landed in a really awkward position and had to wait for a few cars to come past.
yeah, I remember. I think he went to the right hand side, and obviously hit swapped ends, and then went to the left and straight into the outside
Mm.
barriers. Um, but again, he definitely had the pace, because I think he would have kept up with Eden potentially, um, pipped him to a win, or at least give him a run for his money. Because by the time you even slider gas had your little battle, Eden had done a bit of a Scooby
Yeah,
and
pulled
ran
away.
off up the road. It was a very controlled drive from the Spaniard.
Definitely, it's well deserved as well. He did like I mentioned earlier. He pushed the big gap out. I think he might have had a slowdown penalty on one of the later laps, and then from that point on, he just throttled back and thought, take it easy to the end, and that's what he did. And he judged it perfectly because we closed up pretty rapidly towards the end. I'm sure Slider Gas was only 2 seconds or so behind him.
Yeah, I don't think it was much. But again, obviously Scooby was down in eighth, and it was the third different winner, and we were now up to 8 different podium drivers. Because obviously the only
Yeah.
one, I mean the only one at this point who had a second podium was yourself. By this point, you were the only one to have 2 podiums to your name.
Yeah, and considering the fact that in the first 3 rounds of the season I'd driven, well, actually the first 3 rounds of the season, even the next round actually I'd driven pretty weak. So to pull two results out of it was, for me, it was really morale boosting.
So we moved on then from Hockenheim into Austria, and the Red Bull Ring, which I prefer it to be called the A1 Ring. I
Yeah.
just think that's what it is. It's not Red Bull, it's the A1 Ring. Again, another wet race and another single make wet race
Mhm.
in the Mercedes. So at this point, you're thinking, if Cam was to show up, I mean, he'd be almost top favourite for it.
Yeah, I'd have put money on him if I was to bet on it, definitely.
But fortunately for you, not. He wasn't around that day.
Yeah.
Um,
He's kicking himself as well. He really wanted to be there.
but see, I remember because we had a few technical issues, didn't we, to begin with? Um,
Yeah, that was frustrating. We all got stuck in the lobby finishing screen wouldn't pass over, so we had to do a quick restart of the lobby, and once again, Jeff lost out because of that,
he
a
did,
technical issue.
yes. Yeah, I remember that because I ended up getting the blue screen of death and having to restart the broadcast.
Mm,
But yeah, again, Edu had stolen another bonus point
another pole
from
position, yeah.
Scooby, because like in Brands, obviously Scooby got disconnected and Edu took pole position away from him. It was Yeah, Scooby feeling rightfully robbed, I can imagine, for the second time this season. But yeah, so obviously Edu took pole after a 5 minute sprint, and it's fair to say there wasn't a lot of overtaking happening. I mean, it was very, very difficult conditions with the puddles.
It was. There was very close battles, but because of the big puddles at turn 6, 7, it was really difficult to try and make any manoeuvres. I think out of all the drivers that did make any manoeuvres, I had a very poor qualifying session. I think I started 11th. I got what I decided to
Worse than
do
that.
was
You, you,
actually no, I was last, wasn't I?
you were dead last because you never set a time.
Dead last. Yeah, what happened, and people that don't know, is I ran a stable setup during the 15 minutes, and I thought it's not good enough. So I didn't. I wanted to go and set another banker lap, and then I made a mistake which invalidated my lap. So I didn't have time. So I thought I'll just nip on to loose and see how I do in like the first 2 sectors or something. I won't be able to set a full lap, obviously. And I came out, and the car was instantly quicker. So I thought, well, I'll take the penalty of starting last whilst having a quicker car because I knew I could pick my way through the field.
Yeah, I mean, obviously off the start line, Edu again got a decent start, but not a rocket one in all fairness. I think Whitford was the man to get the rocket start from third
Mm.
place. Um, Straight past Jim, as did Scooby. And then, now, we know Whitford's first race in Group A's last season was at Rouen Les Essarts in the BMWs, where he won
In the wet as well.
in the wet. This time, similar car with the Merc, probably worse conditions than Rouen, I'd have
Yep,
thought.
definitely, yeah.
Because I wasn't there, obviously. At this point, I was still off doing other stuff.
Mm.
Um, and then into turn 3, Whitford took the lead, and I was there thinking, he's looking very, very quick at this point in the race. He'd managed to beat Edu into turn 3, and he'd started to build a gap as well.
He'd gapped about 6 tenths, hadn't he, at that point? I think before he hit the puddle.
Yep. And I think it was almost like he didn't expect the puddle to be there right from the start, because obviously Project Cars Live Track 3.0 builds the puddles up. Um, and I have a feeling he thought the puddles weren't going to be there for at least until at least lap 3, where there was a build up, but it was immediately that with the thunderstorms, they're just there. You can't hide from them at all.
Yeah, yeah, it was really unlucky because he was the first car on the scene, so he was the first one to come to experience the conditions, and he overcorrected for what had happened and speared straight off into the other gravel trap, and that was it. He had to play the fighting game to come back, and he was setting some fast times. He was as quick as the leaders, and I think had that have not happened, I mean, in my mind, I think he'd have gone on to have won the race because he looked on top form. Even when he was on his own, lapping round, when he was running down, I think he was in 11th, 10th places catching people. He was so quick, and I just thought he should have won that race. It was just really bad luck that that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching, and the leader was doing 145s, and he suddenly cropped up with a 144. I was like, where has he found an extra second round there?
Mm.
That's phenomenal pace. But I mean, you had a fantastic first lap. Can I just say,
Yep.
15th to 7th in a lap.
Yep.
I mean, that must be a bit of a rush, really.
It's it's me it's me in the A1 ring, really. Last season it happened in the GT3s, started ninth, was third by turn 2. So it's just that track, I think, because everyone's watching each other. I had a cracking start off the line. I got up to, I think it was 13th or maybe 12th by turn one. Took another two places at turn two. Then there was a little bit of an incident at turn three, and that was it. I was up to seventh. Just skated up the inside, and that was that.
I think Jim kind of half struggled a little bit with the Mercs. I remember him spinning at turn three, which is obviously at the A1 ring is the hairpin right before you go back down
Yeah.
the hill.
Ah, sorry, turn four then was where the
Mm.
incident happened that I
Yeah,
got
it's
past.
really weird. They actually make that left hand kink a bend. That's a turn, weirdly enough.
It was definitely a turn in the fun stuff.
um, yeah, Jim was having a bit of a, I wouldn't say horrible race, but it wasn't exactly. Um, don't
I
know really what the
think,
word is.
yeah, I think he got caught up in something at one point. I think he got a little tap that sent him round, and I think that might have knocked him for a few laps. But then I noticed when I was trying to battle with Miral Go Slide at that point, I'd noticed he was catching, and then something would happen, and he'd lose a little bit of time, and he'd catch, mistake, catch, mistake. So I'm not sure quite what happened to Jim with that one.
Obviously, going through the race, Nidu again controlled it, but um, he had Scooby behind for most of the race until, along with Jamie. Jamie was like hovering about half a second behind them,
Hmm.
and then Jamie and Scooby started really going at it at the end of the race, and it
Yeah.
proved going into turn number three again.
Yeah, going into the hairpin. We there was a couple of different opinions of who caused that. It was you could blame Jamie, you could blame Scooby, you could blame both of them, you could blame neither of them. It was a really bizarre crash. We've seen all the different angles of it now, and even now it's inconclusive. From the camera shots from the trackside, from where you see it, it does look like one car causes it. But when you see the different angles, you're like, not really. Difficult, very difficult one. But it happened, and it presented an opportunity further down the lap.
Yeah, to go on from that, obviously Scooby ended up spinning a little bit, and I believe you caught up to him on that one. After,
Yeah,
so I guess in your mind it was like, I don't know what's happened here, but I could get this podium.
well, it wasn't
Final.
a podium at that point because it was fourth. Because
That was
because at
true.
that point, it was Edu, Jamie, and Fraser who was in third, and
That
then
was true.
obviously
Yeah.
two corners or three corners from the end, Jamie clipped the water. Sorry, Fraser clipped the water at the same place that Whitford did and went off.
Mm. Yeah, because he went down to seventh place in the end, Fraser.
Yeah, it was
Um,
really bad luck.
but again, Edu, the first man to take a second victory in the season, so he was starting to build a bit of momentum at this point. Round 3 and 4, two
Mm,
victories on the bounce. Jamie had managed to get another podium, which is good for him, and Scooby again on the podium. So, but it wasn't. It was quite a spread out race because of the weather,
yeah.
but it wasn't as bad as the next race. And I remember this one because a lot of people laughed at the stream. Bannock Bray, the Highlands of Scotland, and
Mm,
Omega's home race. It was basically his backyard.
basically.
So
Yeah.
go on.
Oh, sorry, Jordan, gone.
With Bannock Bray, obviously very very narrow, being just a effectively single carriage road all the way around, with some horrible bumps, jumps, and a flat out chicane in the middle of it.
Yeah, going through Maggie's junk chicane, that's true.
Um, I mean, it's really hard to race in reality around there. I mean, it's very much pick your moment track.
It's a survival track. It was one that I'd wanted to put in for a few seasons, and when Project Cars 2 came out, when it was when I found out you could select it, I thought this is a track not a lot of people have driven around because it was DLC previously. It's a wonderful track to drive around. It's very difficult to race around, but if you keep it on the track, 9 times out of 10 you're going to get a result. And every season, there's always someone, and the last 3 seasons anyway, there's always someone who hasn't had a podium before has come exceptionally close to getting it. We had Bela 007 in season 10 who almost led a race for the first time ever in the Group A's, which he'd not done before. You know, the season before that, we had, I believe it was Lee 007 again, who was almost had a podium out of that, and then this season, One High Mofo was only one or two laps away, I think, from stopping Jeff from getting a podium.
Yeah, I mean, a fantastic drive actually from behind over. I mean, he started in 10th and ended the race in 4th.
Mm.
He said a race of survival, but Cam was there as well. He started 11th. He came in 5th in his Mercedes, which, as good as an achievement for one Himovo is, being in the Audi compared to Cam in the Merc, I mean, Cam's achievement is the same number of positions, but with a harder car, and especially around Bannock Bray when you get all the little bumps and the crests, because the four-wheel drives handle that not too badly, because obviously you've got grip everywhere. But when you go over a crest in a rear-wheel drive car, the back end doesn't normally want to know.
No, it doesn't, and it, like I alluded to before, Matt's the only one who can drive that Mercedes full chat out of all the drivers that I think are in this league. I don't think, apart from maybe Omega at his home track, I don't think anyone could have gone any quicker than Cam did, especially around Bannock Bray.
So we get into the race. Omega took pole position from you, and then
Mm.
Edu. So again, another strong qualifying from Edu. And with Scooby right behind Jamie, Whitford. Into the race, obviously, Tim unfortunately had a bit of an accident into turn 1, clipping the grass and hitting a barrier.
Mm.
But Omega got a good start, off in the lead, you were following him, and it was quite nip and tuck between you two through the whole race and for the battle of the lead.
Yeah, because he stopped me last season. Did Omega? We it wasn't as long of a battle last season. We swapped the lead once last season when we were battling, and I wanted to get my own back this season. I wanted to give it a full check. I do love that circuit. Got past him because he made a little mistake, and then he got back past me because I made a little mistake. And it was the battle of Bannock Bray between me and Omega, and I've wanted that for a while because it is a track where you can push flat out maximum attack, balls to the walls type of racing. You can't leave anything on the table because you'll make a mistake. And at the end, I mean, I made a mistake second to last lap, which took me out. It was bad luck as well because I just clipped the bridge in a straight line. I just all I had to do was turn away from the bridge, but for some reason I just drove straight into it, and that was that. But I can't complain because I had a great battle.
Yeah, obviously, it was probably one of the only ones really to watch, because obviously with Bannock Bray, it's so easy to make a mistake, have a little slide.
Mm.
I mean, it does get a little bit spread out, but we did have some good battles throughout the mid-pack, actually, considering the type of track. I mean, Scooby was into the wall making a fight back for himself. Fraser was trying to come up through the field from 9th on the grid. And generally it was quite good. But again, Edu not having a brilliant race. ended up retiring on lap number
Yeah,
6.
yeah, he spun. He was with me in Omega for a few laps. Then he spun at the second right-hander in the first sector. So you have the left, the right, and then the right again. He dropped it there, clipped the wall, and then bounced just before the bridge. And then he rolled over again later on, and I think he just had enough at that point.
Uh, talk about accidents as well. I mean, first lap Fraser lost the back end. Jim got caught up in it, which is a bit unfortunate. Really, it's like unfortunately, Jim ended up helping Fraser get on his way again, having nowhere really to go. It's obviously very easy to do at Panic Bray. I mean, you just clip the
Mm.
grass and you're around. Um, but in general, not considering like I said, considering the type of track, normally you'd end up having one battle here and then maybe one elsewhere. I mean, considering the type of track, it was a very good race really to watch from a battle perspective.
Yeah, because the way that that track is, you always end up with a driver who's not normally near the podiums, somehow makes the way through the carnage, and then is sat usually in the top few positions, and it acts acting like a bottleneck. But they're driving solidly, and it's down to the faster guys behind to try and get past.
Mm.
And it always creates a mistake from the chasing driver.
So as you get to the end of the race, and typically the Scotsman wins the Scotsman's race
Hmm.
with Omega. Obviously, you came second, which is quite an impressive record. I mean, that's what was I, a third podium in just 5 races.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear people say consistency is key, but your results, like throughout the season so far, was third at Brands, uh, fifth at Spa. Then you went to Hockenheim and you got third. Then you got
Yeah.
fourth at Red Bull Ring, and I was second at Bannock. I mean, the only thing really missing for that is a win.
Yeah. um. Well, I'll tell you. We'll talk about that when we get to driver reviews.
Um, but I mean, they say consistency is key in championships. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't get much more consistent than that. I mean, always in the top 5.
Yeah, it was a really good start to the season, and I think after the championship round, I was fifth. After finishing the first 5 rounds, I was second, a point behind Scooby, who at that point had won one race and got two podiums.
Yeah, yeah. But obviously he had where was it? I
The
think it was an
the
eighth,
Hockenheim race,
eighth at
yeah.
Hockenheim. Yeah, I mean, where you came in third, so that's a massive points difference in
Mm.
reality. But again, obviously one high Cam making good use of his Merca's top tool drive. Whitford, we haven't really spoken a lot about Whitford in his Ford Sierra. I mean, he's been going very well in that car this season, considering it.
He has really done well with that. 'Cause he was running in a podium place at Bannock Prey, funnily enough, at some point, wasn't he? When Eddie went off, Whitford was third. I'm pretty sure he was running in a podium. I thought,
I know he was
that's
in. I
impressive.
know at the end of lap 1 he was up to 5th, and then on lap 3 he dropped it and went down to 8th.
I'm sure he was running in a podium at one point. I remember looking at the gaps, so I knew when to push after Omega. And I'm sure I remember looking and thinking, bloody hell, Whitford's in third. And it's a rarity because we've done the different mate races for a long time now, in about 3 seasons. And Scooby's the only other one who's got a podium in a car that wasn't four-wheel drive, which again was in the Ford. So yeah, it was really, really impressive from Whitford. And like I said at the start of the season, he he is in the top. He was in the top 8 drivers that I thought would be in with a shout at the championship.
Let's just say good evening to Phil, who's just joined us. So,
Lil.
Phil, yeah, good old Phil. So after round 5 of Bannock Bray, it was becoming almost a apparent that you were becoming Mr. Consistent, and everyone else around you was just swapping places with you, all around you really. So it makes the championship look very enticing when we head to the home of British motorsport, Silverstone National.
Hmm.
Obviously, the day after, British touring cars were there.
Yep.
So kind of tied in quite nicely the fact that you ended up taking your week break a bit early. I mean, it was quite a nice coincidence, really.
Yeah, it accidentally worked out, didn't it? So that was it was actually really quite nice to be able to race again in touring cars the day after the touring cars.
And I guess it's one of those things. What a race it was! It was probably the best race of the season, in my opinion.
Definitely from what I've watched, I watched the full race today actually, and the battles up and down the field were fantastic. And it, Silverstone has always, in the Group A, it's been a very, very close race. You know, in looking at the statistics that I put up on the group earlier in the week, only once has Pole not gone on to win the race, but that doesn't mean to say that the race at the front's never been miles apart. It's always been exceptionally close. I think qualifying, I think first to 11th was separated by 8 tenths. And I qualified, I think I was 10th, and I was only half a second off Jeff and Pole.
Yeah, I mean, you end up actually qualifying 11th, and you were
11th then.
yeah. It was sensational because this was obviously a BMW only race as well, for good measure, which makes it even
Mm,
tighter because everyone's got the same piece of kit, the same setups most of the time. Obviously, the only difference being stable and loose.
yeah.
But two debutants around Silverstone, and
Yes,
what
two
an impact!
debutants.
What an impact they made at qualifying.
Yeah, the Speed Kings. I've raced both with Adam Morris back in Project Cars when we did a few fun races a few seasons back, and I had a wonderful battle with him in the McLarens at Monza, and that's the long tail Le Mans car. And then we all know about Boy Rax, 2 times Next Gen Racer Winners champion for the last 2 seasons. So
Yeah, and
when those two
you can always
came
call
in,
him the Ginetta Kingpin as well, couldn't you?
yeah, indeed, single make race again. So to see them two come in, I was just like, these two are going to be quick. We've got to, we've got to make sure that we show that it's not as easy as they think it's going to be. I see qualifying, I thought, just wait till the race, and just wait. It won't be as easy as that.
No, it definitely wasn't as well. I mean, Scooby got off to a good start. Um, and there was a little bit of roof action going through Cop's Corner.
Ah, I know. It all started before that actually. I had a decent start. I'd qualified obviously 11th, as you said, and I got pushed. You can only just see it on the stream a little bit. Before turn one, I got pushed slightly left and onto the grass where the 100-meter marker board is. And I lost about 4 positions. I dropped right to the back. And then Tim sadly dropped it. And I sort of went for a gap in the middle, but when he spun to the right, he corrected himself and went straight back. Hit me, hit Envoy Extreme. I went on my roof, rolled over. Tim went on his roof and rolled over, and Envoy spun out. And it was just so frustrating. But these things happen. Not everyone, you can't be lucky all the way through the season. And Mr. Consistent became Mr. Unfortunate at that moment in time.
Yeah, definitely. It was interesting to watch on the stream. I mean, obviously, even though from a driving perspective, it's highly annoying because you've lost all that time, all the momentum, and the places. But obviously, from an outside point of view, is quite interesting to watch. There's like a pro and a con to everything in some respects.
Hmm.
But we go through the race, and Edu and Slider Gas lap one, very very touring car like accident between each other into Luffield.
Yeah.
Just both of them having a look at trying to overtake each other, and just a slight tap on the rear quarter sent them both spinning. And then Edu started his way back up the field, and yet again, Omega not comfortable with that BMW.
No, he qualified, I think, 2 spots in front of me, just in front of Jamie. I remember that rightly. And I don't know. I don't know why Omega's struggling this season. The BMW. I can't explain that. Only Gary would be able to explain it to you. What's not going right with him, because we know how good he is. He's the reigning champion, obviously, and it is baffling. I don't know whether the patch has made the car more difficult to drive. I know it felt like it had at Silverstone, but it's maybe it was just two specific circumstances. One at Spa with the wet weather and the thunderstorms, and then maybe the new patch just sort of threw things up a little bit, because it definitely felt like it had changed the BMW. It was definitely sliding a little bit more than it would do.
Yeah, obviously with the rear-wheel drive, you've got to really feather the throttle to keep that under control when it starts to going, or come off of it completely. So you do lose a lot of momentum with it. But as we got through the race, the two debutants in Adam Morris and Boy Raxa were starting to prove that if you're quick enough, you can really hassle the front guys. I think the only real person that really got away from them was Scooby, and then Cam once he got past them. But they were really proving how tight this championship was. The fact that they've probably not really practiced in the car, they haven't really driven it, and they've come in and they're right in the mix with everyone. It does show just how tight this championship can be.
Yeah, I spoke to Scooby about 15 minutes before the lobby opened, and they'd got their eye in with the car, and I looked at their lap times compared to what Scooby had done, and they were in the 1 minute bracket, and I thought, well, they're going to be on the pace. I think Scooby, when I seen his times, I thought, well, he's got pole straight away. But what people hadn't accounted for was that those two hooked up their laps. I mean, all credit where credit's due. Adam getting into the 59s, that was impressive. And Benji obviously being a thousandth of a second away from getting into the 59s. So they did a really good job to improve on from where they had in the little warm-up. I think the 15-minute qualifying around Silverstone National probably helped them a little bit more, because they had a bit more time to adjust to the car. And when you get about 10, 12 laps in at a circuit, you start to get your eye in at that point. But they did really well. It was a very impressive drive from them. I know Boy Raxa had a mistake. I don't know if he had a mistake or or he was sent sideways somewhere.
Yeah, he ended up almost spinning at Maggots on lap 5, going to the inside,
Yeah.
which dropped him to 8th place. But by the end of it, he was back in the top 5.
There was a few little mistakes, wasn't there? I think Fraser
Mm.
went off at one point.
Fraser, Edu,
Omega went off just behind me. I was trying to get past, I think it might have been Shockshaft
mm,
coming out of it's Luffield, isn't it? The hairpin.
yeah, their final corner, left before
Yeah.
Woodcut, yeah.
Yeah, Luffield Woodcote Cops, yeah. And he was looking to the inside of me. You can't pick it up on the stream because I think you were on board with me. It didn't, and I think he clipped the curb and spun, and that's why Omega was all over the grass when it cut to you when you cut to him next. So that's what happened to Omega, because he was right up on the inside of me. He was quicker than me at that point as well. So I think it was just a bit of bad luck for him.
Mm. Obviously, go through lap 8, Edu again retiring, just stuff not working for him, just bad luck continuously coming back to haunt him after a
Mm.
good couple rounds in the middle um, of this first half. But Cam, we need to talk about him because he was sensational at Silverstone. I mean, he qualified in 8th, by the end of the race, Scooby was sweating buckets trying to keep him behind.
Yeah, he's in all the races he's done. Cam, or should I say hello, Matt, if he's watching. He's never been one for qualifying. I remember he's all the races he's ever done. He's only ever had pole once in the Group A's ever. But his race pace, I don't know. I don't know where he finds it. He just finds another step, another two steps sometimes, and he just turns it on. The speed. I was watching. He was pulling Scooby in at like 5, 6 tenths a lap. He when I looked at that last lap battle, when he goes up the inside, I was shocked. I thought he'd going to win that. I was gutted that he didn't because it'd have helped in the championship a little bit. But it was a phenomenal drive from him. And for me, if you were to pick a driver of the day sort of thing, race drivers, gotta be him. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so come the end of the race, obviously, Scooby became the third double winner of the season. Phil just saying Cam has really bought his A game this season, which is definitely true. I mean, Phil, if you have any questions for Jack, do pop them in. I mean, I'm sure he'll be happy to answer them.
More than happy to, yeah.
So Scooby ended up becoming your third double winner of the season. Cam with a very close second, and Whitford on the podium. It was a long time coming this season, but he finally got there with the
Yeah,
BMWs.
well deserved. Yeah, like we mentioned with the Mercedes race at the A1 ring, or if you want to go even further back, the Osterdeich ring, although it was technically a different circuit. He deserved the win there. He didn't get it, but he got a podium here, and he got past Adam, didn't he? And then obviously Cam was in a different league of his own compared to everyone else, and obviously the battling that happened got Scooby away while they were battling for second place. But it was really well driven from Whitford. He got past Boy Raxa, he got past Adam Morris, and he just drove off to third place, or practically by himself.
Mm. So obviously Silverstone marks the halfway point before next week. In which obviously next week, if I get up the calendar, will be
That's Snetterton.
Snetterton
Yes.
200, yes. In quite possibly Scooby's favourite car, in my opinion, and also Whitford's.
Yep.
The Sierra Corsa. So in reality, we're kind of expecting them next round to be quite quick, but we'll have a look at the rest of the season a little bit later. Coming out of round 6, Scooby does lead the championship by 12 points to yourself, which is a nice little gap. I mean, it's not massive, but it's enough to give a nice boost into the second half of the season.
I don't think so. I don't think that's much of a gap personally. I don't mean to sound what's the word I'm looking for? No, it doesn't matter. But I don't think 12 points is that much. I think a mistake, if Jeff were to have another, if he were to have an incident at some point in one of the races, if he can't break through the field at Snetterton because it's a reverse grid race, because he struggled at Hockenheim to get through the field, get through the pack. So if he has another race like that, which I don't think he will in the Ford because we all know how quick he is, he might lose some points. And I know you're probably going to read through the rest of the championship order at the minute, but I imagine in the next 6 races with 3 reverse grid races, I think the championship's going to get closer rather than expand.
Yeah, because obviously you're second, Jamie third with 78 points, so he's not far off considering it's effectively a season back for him. I mean, he's been quite impressive in I think this is his return, is it not? Or is this his first season?
Yeah. I mean, consider the fact as well that Jamie's third, me and Jamie are both second and third in the championship, and we haven't won a race this season.
No, I mean,
It's especially for Jamie to come back from a season out for starting, and I've been really happy with the way Jamie's driven this season. He's not really put a foot wrong, if I remember rightly. He's had a few difficult rounds, but I mean, Bannock Bray being one of them. I think that was the only low point I can
mm,
think of.
well, it's interesting to say because he's only had two podiums this season so far, and
Mm,
he's up there. I mean, but he does have the reigning champion right on his tail at 77 points in Omega.
yeah,
So there's definite pressure on there. And then Slidergas, another man we've been very impressed with, if sat fifth in the championship. I mean, this is how topsy-turvy and upside down this championship is. I mean, you're saying like Edu's been on the pace and Fraser, Jim, but Slidergas has come in and just gone, here you go, I'm here.
yeah, exactly. He got his podium, which was fully deserved at Hockenheim. I think he did last season as well. I think Hockenheim seems to be a good track for Slidegas. Yeah, he did. In fact, he was second again last season. But with the reverse grid, he nailed it. He had to. And since then, he's just been racking up the points. There's been the odd mistake here and there, but that's always the case in the Group A's. I think he'll be in with a shout coming into Snetterton next week in the Fords. I think with the reverse grid it'll play to his favour because he's done quite well across the board, and he did well in the BMW. I think he finished sixth at Spa in the Mercedes. I think
Yep.
at Red Bull he wasn't too bad there. I think he was eighth, but I think he got caught up in a few accidents at the start, which caused him to be down there. I think he's got a very good chance in these reverse grid races to get a race win. I think I think it's doable. In fact, I think he can do it at any of the circuits that are coming up. I'm not sure about the Nordschleife. I don't know how he gets on at the Nordschleife, but I've been really impressed this season with him, the way he's jumped in.
Yeah, I mean, say he's got Jim behind him, Fraser behind that, Edu and Whitford. Whitford's been a bit unlucky in my opinion. He's had some good pace, but it's almost like the results just haven't quite gone his way.
Yeah, like the
He,
Mercedes at the A1
yeah,
ring,
just like
exactly. He
almost
should have won.
tiny little things, isn't it? That happened, but just has a massive knock-on effect.
I think it's a case in point to note as well with Jim, who I think's sixth at the moment in the championship. He's missed this race and he's going to miss next week because he's on holiday. So I think that'll take him out of the top three fight, which is a shame because if you look at the drivers that we've had not have a victory this season, that's myself, Jamie, Slidergas, Jim, Fraser, Whitford, Cam, that's seven drivers who potentially could easily have a victory if things go right for them.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'm just looking at the point standings now. It is exceptionally close between sixth to tenth. I think there's only 4 points separating the five of them.
Yes, yes, there is.
Yeah, so it's close up and down the field. You can look further down than that as well, and it's still pretty close between a number of other drivers.
So let's okay. Let's pick out a few drivers and then let's give them a little review so far. And I think it's wise to start off with the championship leader, Scooby. I mean, this year he has proved why he's always at the top.
He's just been unstoppable, hasn't he? When he won the championship 2 seasons back, it was a 15 race calendar at the time, and he didn't. It's quite strange. It's quite strange for Jeff slash Scooby because he didn't have that electric pace that he's shown this season. He only won once in 15 races all that season when he won, but he was exceptionally consistent. And then last season, he brought more pace, but he lost the consistency. And now, despite that Hockenheim race, he's been electrically fast. A bit unlucky at times. He was unlucky at the A1 ring when he had the incident. Hockenheim got caught up behind other slower cars. Maybe that's a contentious point. Maybe you could say, can he get past drivers? Maybe not so much in the four that's next, and I imagine he will. But when we go to Rouen and Alton Park, really tight, difficult tracks, can he push his way through? But he's probably been the best driver across the board in terms of speed, consistency, and he's always in contention for a pole position. He should have had four pole positions this season, considering he's had two robbed off him. So it's going to be very difficult to rein him back in, I think. But from a personal point of view, I don't think it's impossible. But obviously, I'm biased.
No, I don't think anything's impossible. I mean, just have a quick question from Phil, which is a good little question actually. He's saying Group A is a great league to race in, but is there things that you still would like to try to see if it mixes everything up?
There's been a few things that I've been. I mean, we had the test race last night where we were driving different cars. I love the Group A's. I wish there was more of an opportunity to race other cars, but I know that with some of the car classes, they're exceptionally unbalanced. The Group 5 class, one of the ones that we raced last night, was really unbalanced. The GTO class, which I love, is also unbalanced. The, the Group A's, I think, aside from running one make races, are probably the closest across the board, aside from the GT3s because they are all BOP, they're probably the most naturally balanced in terms of the rear wheel drive cars are very close to one another in terms of lap time, and the four wheel drive cars are quite close to each other in terms of lap time. There is that divide, which I don't like, which is why I introduced a few seasons back the same make rule for seven rounds of the season. I am looking potentially to add another car in next season that'll bring 8 of the rounds in the same car and 4 sort of free choice so that it'll balance it up even further. I think Jordan will admit from watching at Hockenheim that the reverse grid draw has worked so far. We've still got 3 rounds to go, so things could change. But in terms of quality, closeness to the racing, I don't think there's much more that I could do. Maybe introduce some new tracks that haven't been in before, maybe bring some old ones back, like Monaco, which I know is a favourite for Jeff and for Ginge as well, who's racing in the leagues because he pulled out of this league. But for me, and from what I'm getting from when I'm speaking to people at the end of each season, and the people I've spoken to, I've spoken to about 6 or 7 people so far during the week break. The the racing, the format changes that we've had now into the Group A's that I brought in seems to have just sort of created an almost perfect balance. It's not quite there. I think next season we'll probably have more same make races, and I think maybe maybe more reverse grid races, but we have to see how the other 3 reverse grid races go in the second half of the season. But
Definitely.
I'm always open for suggestion, always.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the nice thing with this league is that suggestions are always welcome to try and mix everything up, and it'll always be tested pretty much. And if it works, 9 times out of 10, if something works, it will probably get put into a season for at least one
Mm.
race. Um, yeah, as you said, probably the most naturally balanced class of the game around. Back to let's pick up another driver quickly. I mean, Edu. His season has been very hit and miss.
Edu, I hope you're listening to this because I'm going to give you the honest truth. Because Edu has been, he, it's a combination of really bad luck, which is carried on from when he first started racing in our league. I think back in season 10 was the first season he started with us. I think, if I remember rightly. He did a little bit in season 9, but his first full season was 10. And I remember in that season, going into the last 3 races of that championship, it was a 2 horse race at one point. It was between Scooby and Ginge, and there was only room for one other driver really to pop into that to make a top 3 battle, and it was either me or Edu. And he should have won at Alton Park that season, but a backmarker spun and caught him out with a lap and a bit to go, which meant I won that race, and then he disconnected from the next round at Bathurst. And it's ever since then he's had this really, really bad luck. Some of it, in fact, half of it is probably out of his control because he's had a few disconnections. He disconnected last season at Bathurst as well. It's not a good track for him. He's had a few other bits of connection issues and weird Project Cars 2 lobby issues. But I did a total tally up of the points he's dropped from when he's quit. And I looked, if you look at where he was in Spa, I think he was, I want to say he was 12th, 11th.
Something
That would
around
have been
that
five or
area,
six.
yeah.
Yeah, 5 or 6 points. Rannick Bray, he was in front of Tim, who scored 5 points, so he'd have had 6. Again, it's Silverstone, he'd have beat Tim and Envoy Extreme, so that's 8 points. So if you add that up, what was that? 8? How many did I say that Rannick Bray missed out on? 7? 6?
Yeah,
So that's
7.
19 points, 20 points practically. It'd have put him 2 behind Omega. He'd be in championship hunt, and now he's an outside contender. I would not be surprised if he won more races than anyone else this season. But if he needs to finish races, I know it's frustrating. I know it happens to everyone. You just want to quit, but points make prizes, and that's what he's got to do. He's got to finish those races, and if he does, he could put a championship together despite the fact that he's having a lot of bad luck. Disconnections there's not much he can do about, and he's been quite solid for that this season. It's just retiring because of really bad luck. He got flipped at Bannock Bray, which wasn't really his fault. I think he'd have been on for 5th or 6th at that point when it happened, so he could have been further in the championship had it not been for that. So yeah, very quick, and when he's on form, unstoppable. Just needs to finish those races.
One final driver before we have a look towards the end of the season. Tim. Now, we know Tim, and even he admits it himself, he's not the quickest driver on the block. But
No.
he is consistent, and he does finish. And, okay, he's only 14th in the championship with 23 points, but he keeps getting quicker and quicker each season.
I keep saying this at the end of the season reviews. Last 2 seasons he's got better, but he had a few issues with the wheel and there was a lot of inconsistency with his driving. And I said with Scooby at the time when it was happening, it's his wheel settings. Someone, particularly Scooby, because we know how quick he is, give him yours and see how he gets on. And he's had them, I think, now for a 2, 3, I think 2 rounds at least. And I've noticed his speed has massively upturned. Okay, his consistency's not there yet. But I remember 2 seasons ago when he started, he got lapped 3 times at Silverstone National. And he got lapped once, and it was pretty much towards the end of the race. And considering that it's a short circuit, he's getting better and better. And I really do honestly appreciate Tim showing up every week, week in and week out, that dedication to come in, even though he's not really battling with anyone at the moment, except for Envoy Extreme when he pops in. I do think Tim will get better. I think it will take time because these things always do. Just look at my transition from controller to the wheel. It's took me a while, and I'm still learning now. But I think now that Tim's got the right settings and things are sort of in the right framework. It's just practice.
Mm.
It might not improve dramatically by the end of the season, but I think that mid-season, that season break in between 12 and 13, if he gets time to practice, I think he'll join the midfield, and then we won't really have any tail end runners.
Yeah. No, I don't really class him as a tail ender either because it's almost like he's going to be there, but very
Yeah,
soon he will be on the on the back of the mid pack. So it's not even
I'm
like
sure it'll happen.
he's not even he's a tail ender. He's almost like almost like a
It's continuous improvement.
graduate
Yeah,
midfielder, isn't he? He's just gradually getting there, and as soon as he's there, I think he could upset the books a little bit against a few people.
I think so. I think if you look at the way I've been watching a few of the other races from the Monday Night Tours, obviously, that me and Lee host, and watching him in those, he's creeping, very slowly creeping into the mix. And I've noticed with him, when he's in a battle, when he's behind someone following them, he can keep up with that pace with those who are in that midfield. It's just that there's a mistake and then that. But he can pull it off. I know he can. He just needs to practice. And once he does, he'll be in the midfield completely.
Definitely, definitely. Um, Obviously this season has been quite nice for you because the whole season is getting streamed from your point of view.
Mm.
Obviously last season it was only about the last 4 or 5 races. I mean,
Yeah. From
how
Rouen was from Donington onwards, wasn't it? Or Rouen
yeah,
onwards, I believe.
um, Donington,
Donington, yeah.
Donington, yeah, and the Mercedes, I
Last
think.
5 rounds. Yeah, you're right, yeah.
Um, Now obviously it's really nice to get people to watch it. It's really good to see the racing, but from a viewpoint of yourself and just to look at the general racing and how the league is at the moment from almost a cleanliness point of view. I mean, how important is it to have that other angle and someone else always calling their views on something as it's happening?
100% the most important addition we've made to the Group A titles ever. Like I'm not understating that at all. There have been some incredible battles through the Group A tours over the last 6, 7 seasons. Me and Ginge going for the title at the final lap of the Nordschleife in season 8, rather, season 7, yeah. Wonderful performances from Fabrizio, who doesn't race in the league anymore at the moment because of time influences and the other things that have happened, but they've not been captured and streamed. And I look back and I think, God, if people had seen the close quality of racing that we've always had in this league, it'd boost the appeal of the championship even more. I'd love to praise as even I'd praise amongst the stars everything about the commentary and the streaming that you've done, Jordan, because it has been absolutely fantastic. And the commentary that you do has been bang on accurate 99% of the time. Everyone makes an odd mistake here and there, it always happens. And the other thing is you're doing the brunt share of the work. It at some point, maybe in the future, it would be quite nice to have a second perspective come in. Now, I might do that at some point in the future. That's not an impossibility. But with what you've done, in particular, the dramatisation of the races has increased. You see all the close battles. Getting another viewpoint perspective of the on-track action has been fantastic. I've been speaking to a number of people who aren't sim racers. They usually play arcade games and Super Mario Kart and stuff like that. And they've been watching the races from the Group A's. They then thought, well, why don't we watch these? Watch the CC. And they've even been watching some of our sponsored leagues like the Max Coates Clio Cup and the GT5 of Emily Lynn Scott. And it's all because of the commentary that you've done, the commentary that Phil does, and the way that next gen's been structured, and live streaming and commentary, for me personally, has to be the way forward from now on, because there's, I mean, I know admittedly you can't get, not everyone can get to every single race, not every, because time restrictions and everyone has lives, but for the broadcasting side of things, it has been unbelievable, top quality. I wouldn't have it any other way. I couldn't now imagine a Group A Tourers race, a Monday night Tourers set of races without commentary now, because it
Mm.
would feel not empty, but not the same.
No, I guess obviously with the addition now of massive esports stuff going on, it's almost good to keep up with that.
Mm.
With that sort of trend nowadays, I mean, go back a couple of years ago, people were just sort of online racing for a bit of fun. Now, you've got people being paid to go and race on a game.
Even Formula One teams and
Exactly.
manufacturers now are paying for that sort of thing, which shows the highlighted importance of it, and I think it's a credit to Phil and the admin team as well from when they first started doing it. Obviously, the Race of Winners has always been streamed and commentated over, and then the team was sort of ahead of the game in that regard. They've always been on track, but now we've got more leagues being streamed. It it provides a broader view of next gen. Now that people are seeing what we do, how we race, and we've got a really good reputation for clean racing, and people see that, and they see the quality, and they think, "Wow, let's go racing that way." And it's really really important to keep that going.
I do have to ask though, for the first half of the season, which, looking back, 'cause I'm sure you probably look back on every race on the streams and that,
In
which one
huge
was
detail.
which one was your favourite one so far? From, it could be a racing perspective, commentary perspective, however you want to see it. Which stream was the best so far out of the first six?
In terms of the Group A's, Silverstone was great for the on-track action, but I thought in terms of the test of skill, in terms of the commentary, in terms of, in fact, the drama toward the end and the mistakes, I'd go with the race at the A1 ring in the Mercedes, because that really was a true test of driver skill. The commentary had to be spot on because there was some issues in that lobby, as we mentioned earlier on in the stream. The lobby itself wasn't 100% stable, but it all came through for me anyway. A sort of really perfect concoction. It was tiny gaps between the front three. Really sat on the back of Edu's bumper when he won the race, and Jamie and Jeff having that contact. And a little bit of drama, a little bit of spice, and Fraser spinning out on the last lap, two corners away from getting a podium. It's that impact for me, and personal point of view is obviously charging through the field on lap one. For me, yeah, that would be the race of the season for the Group A's. For myself personally,
So that's all in the past now. Looking to the next six, the second half of the season, this is where it gets serious. I mean, the first six, in my opinion, is more like a let's get this started and see how it goes. But now the final six is where you now knuckle down and really go, right, this is where everything counts. No mistakes from here on out.
yeah,
And the first test of that
definitely.
is a Ford Sierra at the Snetterton 200. Not the easiest track, with far from the easiest car.
No, it's point and shoot, isn't it? Out of the corners, I think there's only really the second to last corner, the long right hander after the bomb hole, that is really a long corner. The rest of them are literally just point shoot, point up. Turn one obviously as well as a difficult third gear, fourth gear right hander. it's all about throttle management and how you can get on the brakes. It's
I tell you
absolutely
what,
crucial.
especially through Brundle and Nelson. So
Yeah,
you come through the first corner, go to the hairpin right, 90 left, and you're down the straight, and then that left into 90 right. That is crucial because it's so easy just to lose the back end and the braking.
it's a track that suits myself. It's a car that suits Jeff, obviously, because he's Scooby being the championship leader. But and if I were to say who'd win, I'd go Fraser, and not to put pressure on him. But last season, it was a wet race in the Ford. Had it have not been, the lap record would have been smashed. It was a wet race in the Ford Sierra, and Fraser and myself set lap times that were quite far ahead of the rest of the field. I say far ahead, it was only 5 tenths. Admittedly, Jeff got pole at that point, but he fluffed his lines at the start, and me and Fraser shot off into the distance. Fraser disconnected after a couple of laps. He lost all of his points. He probably could have won that race. I was then left to my own devices up at the front, 10 seconds up the field, and then disconnected myself and Scooby won. So it's going to be really close. The reverse grid with Jeff starting from the back, myself starting second to last, Jamie starting third to last, and Gary / Omega, he'll be fourth to last. Watching us four trying to battle through the field and battle ourselves, because that will happen, is going to be immense. But I think Fraser, with that qualifying advantage, I think he'll pull it out of the bag, personally.
It's interesting. I mean, I agree Fraser's a big potential winner in this because he's got the choice of qualifying. For me, it's Whitford. I'm going to pick Whitford because he's driven the car this season. He knows how it handles since the patch.
Yeah.
And he's been pulling out some mega pace. And I reckon as long as it's dry, I think Whitford could be possibly quicker than Scooby in this one.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not going to lie, I forgot about Whitford. Sorry, Josh, don't hate me for that. Yeah, Josh is exceptionally quick in the Ford. He showed that last season with fourth at Bathurst, and he got podium on the Nordschleife. He was the only other driver, aside from myself, who finished a minute within Scooby. So I think that'll be a good battle. But I think Fraser has a point to prove, and I think that, for me, gives him the edge. I'd be shocked if Whitford didn't get a podium. No pressure.
So going from Snetterton, we then go Zolder, which personally I don't like Zolder. I
I
hate
love
the
Zolder.
place. The only time I've ever enjoyed it is in a BMW M1 Pro car in the rain. Um,
Any track is fantastic in the M1 Pro car. That is a fact.
so you go to Zolder. I mean, anyone you would tip to be fairly quick around there with their original car choice?
Not to blow my own horn or anything, but I have a tendency to go really well at Zolder. Um, I've won there a lot in the past. It was my first time I ever won on a wheel in a league race in an Audi R8 GT3 car. And last season I got my first podium on the wheel around Zolder as well. So I think to be honest with you, original choice of car. There's one other driver who's always done really well around Zolder, and that's Gary / Omega, who's the reigning champion. I think it's going to be very difficult to beat Gary. I really do. But we'll see how it goes. Momentum's a very key thing from this point onwards.
Hmm. And then we go to Rouen Les Essarts, the old F1 circuit.
Hmm.
And yet again, single make, this time Mercedes, not the
It is.
BMWs, and the top four reverse.
Yep.
W-
It's going to be difficult.
This one, you can't
Uh,
really say that there's a particular favourite for
well, if it rains again, I'd put money on Whitford.
it.
But no, last season when we were practicing before it rained, we were doing dry practice, and again, like Bannockbrae and like the Nordschleife, which obviously comes up later on in the season, it is another balls to the walls track. You have to push flat out to make sure you get the result. Now we've already had one race like that this season at Bannockbrae, and it was me and Gary who were up at the front. Scooby obviously had some bad luck at the time. He could have been up there with us as well. His quick laps were too far away, and Edu's the same. But it's more than likely that us three, as the current champion standings are, at that point in time, it could end up being us three at the back with Edu up the front. I don't think this championship's over by a long shot because of the way the reverse grid draw is now working. I think it could, like I said earlier, I think it'll get a lot closer, and I think with Rouen it'll be the turning point.
Definitely. I mean, from Ruin, you then go to a fan favourite, Bathurst, Mount Panorama. Back in the Sierra Cosmos, I mean, you can't really go wrong with that, can you? I mean,
No,
a difficult car to handle on another difficult track up a hill.
up a big hill. But that's the thing with Bathurst, that the Ford and the track just seem to suit one another really well on this game. We had 5 different drivers battling out for victory last season at Bathurst. We had Scooby, Omega, myself, Whitford was there, Edu was carrying on from his bad luck, disconnected while he was in the lead. And I look at the drivers and I think there's a possibility. I think Whitford will probably be there or thereabouts. I think Fraser could also be. It's a tough one to call. The lap times were stupidly fast last season. Everyone was flat out, and you know Gary got pole, Omega got pole, and it was that close. It could have gone either way. It could have gone to anyone. Anyone could have won that race the way it was. Oh, sorry. Bear with me. I'll be back in one moment.
So let's check quickly sort them out. We are currently discussing the
Apologies about
calendar.
that.
Oh, carry on.
I'd finished my point anyway.
Fair enough. Yeah, if you haven't just joined us, you've missed a fair bit, to be honest. Recap of everything. If you do have a question, do put it in the comments, because we aren't far off of finishing, so definitely get your questions in. So you go from Bathurst, where anyone can win, pretty much, and we go to a track that really does put a smile on my face. It really does. Alton Park Fosters. Yeah, it's a track of how can you not like it? And even better than that, you've chosen it as a reverse grid.
Yeah, I have, as Phil would know, as Phil would testify, it's our home track. Alton Park is the closest track to where I live, same for him, I believe. Obviously, Phil grew up not too far away from where I live, and it's a wonderful circuit. The last time we run a reverse grid here, this was back before I was hosting it. It was a reverse grid race, and I came from the back and won. Now, I doubt that's going to happen again, but I know for a fact that my performance will go from 100% to 150%, because that's what it does when you get to your home track. You always try and do the best you can because you always think, yes, the home fans are cheering me and no one else. So it feels like there's a bit of an advantage for me, but depending on how the championship goes, I could have a mare and I could be starting first, I could be starting last. We don't know because it's quite late on in the season. I think there's going to be some big points won and lost, and I think it's more than likely that the championship could be decided not so much in terms of mathematically, but I think in terms of results. It
Yeah.
could be decided there, or it could swing everything right in, so we have a big scrap for the final round, which I'm sure you'll mention.
Yes. Before we get there though, Phil has asked if you could add any classic touring car to the Group A list, what would it be?
Alfa Romeo 155.
I'm
It's
gonna
in
agree
Assetto
with you.
Corsa, and it's not in this, and it's bloody frustrating. As a huge Alfa Romeo fan, which I am, it's heartbreaking that it's not in the game.
Hmm.
But looking beyond the Alpha, it's difficult. There's loads of different Group A cars that have been in the past. I mean, there's the DTM Mustang from the 90s that we've had that battled with the V8 Audi
Mm-hmm.
and the R32 Skyline, so that's also a contender. There are a couple of others that I've suddenly gone blank with over the top of my head, but the 155 would definitely be on there. There's also like other little uh, Group A cars that were there. They obviously had, I believe, the Chevette was still around towards the late 80s, which was sort of a subclass of the Group A's. I know they were still racing then. And there's a few early, some other escorts around as well at the time. But if I were to pick one, it'd be the 155, definitely.
Yeah, I think I'll have to agree with you on that one. I mean, it's a beautiful car, especially to drive. But from my personal opinion, I'd actually prefer not to have another Group A added, but actually a British touring car, like two sets of British touring cars. As like you'd have like the old where you had like the Mondeos and the Lagunas.
I'd
Have
love a Super 2000 Tourer category.
have those
It'd
cars in,
be,
and to be fair, and the modern touring cars of this year would be amazing to have as well, in my opinion.
it's such a tricky one with the license at the
Hmm.
moment. No one knows. Well, we know who has the license because Codemasters effectively have it on a lease. But the rights to the cars are so muddled up with the TBLs, which are the total loan licenses for the grids of the cars, that there's a real legal wrangling at the moment to try and get those cars in the game. So if you the loans, you'd have to get two effective licenses, from what I'm aware, for the category of Toka, the races here is BTCC, and then one from the teams. It's doable, but it's a lot of legal work to get through
Hmm.
to try and merge them into one, from what I've heard, which is why we haven't seen a game since the WTCC Championship by Codemasters back in 99, 2000 on the
Yeah.
PS1. So that's why we've only seen individual cars pop up, like Rob Holland's Audi S3 from a few years back. He joined the championship for a few rounds in Forza at the time, and a couple of others.
See, from my point of view, it would be probably a massive selling point if any game could do that. I mean, to be the only game to have official cars, teams, and that would probably be a massive selling point nowadays with the way
Be
the
a
British
dream.
touring cars are. As long as you get the physics correct, in my opinion.
It's probably the best. It's probably the best circuit racing series in the world. I don't think in terms of competitiveness, in terms of manufacturer awareness, in terms of fan hospitality. I don't think there's a championship out there in the world on circuit that is better across the board. I know there are more glamorous circuit championships like Formula One and technically the World Touring Car Championship, although this season it's sort of been regenerated again. But for car action on a circuit, nothing beats the BTCC for me.
So we come to the end of the season. round 12 of season 12.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Nordschleife combined.
It's the
However,
Nordschleife combined.
however, there's a little commentator's twist on it this year, isn't there?
Just a touch, just a little one, nothing major.
I'll let you explain that little twist and how it all came about.
So at the end of last season, the rain gods didn't accept the rain dance that Jordan had wished for. So I foolishly suggested that we could make it wet for the final round of the Nordschleife for the final race of the championship. And then it got implemented in for season 12, so we are running the final round of the championship in rain conditions, just rain conditions, around the Green Hell in the Ford Sierra Cosworth. I don't regret the decision, but I now realise that it's going to be one heck of a challenge to try, and especially if a championship's on the line, to win that race. I think it's going to be absolute chaos, and it's going to come down to, just like Rouen last season, just like Nordschleife is every season, balls to the walls.
But in theory, with it raining, I mean, it basically opens the door. I mean, you could go in fourth place in the championship, be mathematically possible. But with having rain in Nordschleife, I mean, that actually, in reality, that makes you realistically possible as well. Because no one's safe from a small minor mistake and a massive accident in the walls.
You you have to have had hundreds and hundreds and thousands of laps of the Nordschleife on Project Cars 2, just Project Cars 2, to know how the car's going to react. You can do a week's worth of practice in the rain coming up beforehand, and it'll come to the race, and then live track. It's always different each time. So whoever's going into the final round in contention for the championship are going to have to be on the game. They're going to have to be alert. They're just going to have to know how that Ford moves. I know how that Ford moves. Scooby knows how the Ford moves. In fact, a lot of people do. But I mean, to be fair, I have reduced the race length by one lap, because it'd be cruel if I did as many laps as I did last season and as we did in the drive. So taking it down by one, with the increase in lap time, it won't make it as long, but it will be twice as hard. And I think I'm super looking forward to that. I'm glad you made the decision. I'm glad you suggested that, because I think at that point it'll be the 95th, 96th race of the Group A Tours at that point. I mean, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because the 100th race is next season. So that's something to look forward to, and it's giving me ideas for that, because I've had to start thinking about that now. But that final round of this season is going to be mega, and whoever wins will fully deserve it.
Most definitely. And that would end the season. I mean, do you want? Be interesting because do you tend to have any plans during the kind of like the weeks between seasons? Because you get a few, like 3, 4, 5 weeks in between each season to then prepare the next league.
Hmm.
Deal with that. I mean, do you tend to do any like fundraisers in that gap to almost try and keep the rust off of you?
We at that point we have ran endurance races in the past. We did one. Phil might remember this actually. We ran an endurance race at the Nordschleife back in Project Cars 1, and I ripped the wheel off about a third of the way around the track, so I had to limp all the way back to the pits with with three wheels on my wagon. But we do normally run, I think in the past. I know last season we ran a couple of like little fun races. I think with some ideas that I had from last night's sprint races that we did, different categories, I probably will run another one. Probably not in the Group A's. It's just for potential additions. I did mention that I was seriously considering putting another car, same make race though, into the championship to add another 2 rounds of the same car. So I need to do a bit more testing. So keep an eye out. I will put a post up at season's end. Probably run on a Monday again, so that everyone's still a little bit fresh. Probably maybe halfway during the break, just so that everyone keeps their eye in for a little bit. Because 2 weeks break isn't too bad. 4 weeks rustiness happens. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I will probably definitely, actually no, I definitely will run a
Uh,
little set of fun races. Plus it'll be done with another bunch of cars as well, because it's nice to drive cars that we don't drive in the game, which is what we did
mm.
last night.
Phil does remember passing you through the forest with sparks flying out of your car.
Good, I'm glad you remember this. It took me 12 minutes to get that car back to the pits.
Um, so, obviously, now spoken past, the kind of like the present and the future. I mean, it's going to be one hell of a finale with the tightness of the championship. I mean, if you could pick one highlight, just one highlight from the past 6 races, what would it be? Putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, you're putting me on the spot there, but that's fine. That's okay. It's not necessarily one moment. It's actually no, it is one moment, and it's seeing Cam, Matt Jordan back at the front, because me and Cam have had a good rivalry going since season 6 in the Group A tours, when both me and him were scrapping for the title, and it went to the last, second to last round. I think I managed to seal it off, but seeing him at the front, he had a difficult last season because he didn't do many races, and it did affect him a little bit. But to see him now consistently near the front, because he only did a couple of races last season, and he did get a podium with a phenomenal battle with me and him at S12. It was unbelievable, and the Mercedes was side by side, corner to corner. To see him arguably back, probably we haven't even seen him at best form. I don't think. I think the BMWs is him being very close. I think he can go even quicker. To see him back at the front, especially at that Silverstone race, that for me is a highlight. I could mention other drivers. I could, mention One High Mofo at Bannock Brain and he getting a podium. I could mention Shockshaft and his battles. I could mention, Fraser's D1 drifting. I could mention loads of things, but seeing Cam back at the front, that's ace. It's really great to see another potential race winner this season, and I think he's got a good chance.
Mhm. Now, I've got something as a little announcement, as a bit of a surprise that I've kept from you during today's
Oh God.
conversations of um, organising this. And this is not going to be the final special edition notebook before the end of the season. Because obviously we're going to I'm planning on doing one after the season, as a complete
Mm.
season review. But I'm
Yeah.
planning on one more special one at the end for all the leagues I commentate. And it's one that you could call the gloves are off, in which I am planning on getting all contenders going into Nordschleife together in one room, or one party chat, and having a sit down conversation about how everything's going to go. That is a plan I want to put together. So that's what I'm going to look forward to, because you could be in that specialty.
Every chance, definitely every chance. But I don't think I'll be the only one. I
Well,
think
if
there's
you were
a
the only
few
one, though, it would
drivers.
make a bit of a boring show, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah, I don't want that. Not in this championship.
but that's what I'm kind of planning. So that's
That'd be
almost like a
great.
nice little surprise for everyone going into the final round, hopefully with 2, 3 people
I
able
think there's, I
to.
think there's, I think there's scope for five. I think, I mean, look at the championship and the way that the reverse grids are. I think if a couple of people just get their act together during those reverse grid races, they'll make up big points. Three minimum, I think, going into the final round, definitely.
I mean, Phil just said in when that chat happens, he bets Scooby will say he's not done any practice.
He bloody will say that as well.
Um, but I hope you look forward to hearing that, because even if you're not in that battle, I am going to drag you along as a secondary
Yeah,
co-host for it,
yeah, I'm definitely
because
looking forward to that. That'll be
it will
ace.
basically be for me it'll be a little place, because obviously I watch a load of sports, boxing being one of them, and I know in boxing they do this, and it's where you can have a little, like a small bit of trash talk before you enter battle, and I think it will make the end of the season really dramatic if we can have all the contenders in and just giving a little, not like terrible stuff, but just a little bit of chirp before going into it, just
I
to
can
create
guarantee Scooby will give you that little chair.
just to give it that little bit more buzz and a little bit more electricity going in, because everyone gets fired up for that final round, because they know, especially the contenders, they know they can win. And for people that maybe aren't in the championship picture, it kind of gives them a little boost. I was going, okay, next year, if results go my way, I mean, that could be me
Mm,
with those guys. But also the mid pack, it still gives them something to fight for, because they'll have their set targets that they want to achieve. For example, I know this is a little bit not Group A, but for me, obviously I race with you guys in the Clios,
yeah.
and you guys have always known my baseline is I want top 10. If I can get top 10,
Mm.
I'm very happy with that. So it's going to be interesting, I think, come the end, to see who's happy with their season, who's not, who thought what, really. But I guess only time will tell.
Indeed. Indeed it will.
But I think we've covered pretty much everything we need to. So, Phil, thank you for listening in tonight, and whoever else has joined it during the stream. It's, uh, it's been an interesting one. I mean, we've been here for a long time, to be honest. Because me and Jack can talk for days about this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but we do thank you for listening and taking time out of your night to at least listen into it.
Mm.
Hopefully you've seen a bit more insight into the current season that's happening at the moment. Um, Jack, any words before we go?
Stay tuned for the next 6 races because I guarantee it's going to be a blast.
There you go. But next Monday we are back at Snetterton 200, um, and it's crunch time for everyone. These next 3 races are crucial to see who's in that championship picture. But the only way to find out is to join us on Monday for it all. But from myself, it's goodbye, and from Jack,
Goodbye.
his words. Thank you all for watching. Join us on Monday. Enjoy the rest of your night.